In the quiet town of Blackwood, perched on the edge of a gnarled, ancient forest, there stood a house that no one dared enter. It was an old Victorian mansion, its towering silhouette casting a jagged shadow over the landscape. To outsiders, it was merely a relic of a bygone era, but to the townsfolk, it was something far worse. It was called the Holloway House, but those who spoke of it in hushed tones had another name for it, the House That Whispers. No one had lived there for nearly a century. The last known occupants, the Holloway family, had all perished in a mysterious fire, yet the house itself remained untouched by the flames. Some believed it had been built on cursed land. Others swore they had seen figures moving behind its broken windows. Children dared each other to run up to the front steps and knock, but none ever made it past the rusted iron gate. The few brave souls who entered over the years, reckless drifters or paranormal enthusiasts, were never the same afterward. Those who returned from a house that whispers were pale shadows of their former selves, haunted by something they refused to speak of. And some never returned at all. It was on a cold October night when four friends, Lisa, Jake, Emily, and Brian, decided to do what no one else in town had ever dared.
It's just a house.
Brian said, adjusting the camera strapped around his chest.
A really old, creepy house. But still, just a house.
Lisa wasn't so sure.
My grandmother used to say the house was alive, that it could trap people inside.
Jake rolled his eyes.
Oh, come on. We stay one night, get some footage, and leave with proof that there's nothing here. We'll be legends.
Emily hesitated at the gate, staring up at the towering house. The windows were like dark, empty eyes.
Let's just go in and get it over with.
With a creak that sent a shudder through the group, the front gate swung open as if inviting them in. The air grew thick with the scent of damp wood and decay as they stepped onto the porch. Brian hesitated before turning the rusted doorknob. The door opened with a groan, revealing a grand foyer covered in dust and cobwebs. A chandelier, its crystals dulled with age, hung precariously from the ceiling. The wallpaper, once elegant, was now peeling like rotting skin.
This place is disgusting.
Lisa muttered, brushing off a cobweb. Emily turned on her flashlight, sweeping it across the room. The beam landed on an old portrait above the fireplace. It depicted a family, a mother, father, and two children, but their eyes had been scratched out. Jake shuddered.
Creepy as hell.
But it wasn't the portrait that made them uneasy. It was the silence. The kind of silence that felt too deep, as if the house were listening. Then came the first whisper. At first, it was faint, like wind through cracked walls. But as they moved deeper into the house, it grew clearer. It was a voice, a child's voice.
Come play with me.
Lisa froze.
Did you hear that?
Jake forced a laugh.
It's probably just the wind.
But the others weren't so sure. They split into two groups. Lisa and Jake explored the upstairs while Emily and Brian investigated the main floor. Lisa trailed her fingers along the old wooden railing as they ascended.
This place is a death trap. We should be careful.
Jake nodded but stopped suddenly. A door at the end of the hallway was slightly open. It had been closed just moments before. As they approached, the whispering returned, closer this time.
Come closer. I see you.
Lisa swallowed hard.
Let's check another room.
But Jake, curiosity outweighing his fear, pushed the door open. The room inside was a child's bedroom, untouched by time. A small rocking horse sat in the corner, swaying gently on its own. A doll, its porcelain face cracked, rested on a dusty bed. Then the closet door creaked open. Lisa clutched Jake's arm.
Let's go.
A shadow moved inside the closet. They ran. Meanwhile, downstairs, Brian was filming the parlor when Emily grabbed his arm.
Did you hear that?
The grand piano, untouched for decades, had just played a single note. Brian swallowed.
That's weird.
Then came the sound of footsteps on the floor above them. Running. Lisa and Jake came barreling down the stairs, their faces pale.
We have to go. Now.
Emily turned toward the front door, but it was gone. Not closed, not blocked, just gone. The walls seemed to shift around them, stretching and twisting. The whispers grew into a chorus of voices.
You belong to us.
A piercing scream cut through the air. The group turned to see Emily being dragged backward by unseen hands. Brian lunged for her, grabbing her wrist.
Hold on.
Her eyes were wide with terror.
It's pulling me.
And then she was gone. Panic took hold. The remaining three ran, stumbling through the ever-changing halls.
This isn't possible.
Lisa sobbed. They reached the dining room, where a massive wooden table stood covering cobwebs. A feast had been set, a grotesque display of rotting food and dust-covered plates. And at the head of the table sat Emily. Her skin was pale, her eyes empty. Her mouth twisted into a grotesque smile.
Sit.
She whispered. Jake pulled Lisa away, but Brian hesitated.
Emily?
She stood, moving wrong, her limbs jerking unnaturally.
Stay with me.
Brian screamed, the shadows swallowed him whole. Jake and Lisa ran blindly, twisting through endless corridors. The house was laughing now, its walls vibrating with unseen energy. Then they saw it, the front door wide open. Hope surged through them. They sprinted for it. Lisa made it out first, tumbling onto the cold, wet grass. She turned just in time to see the door slam shut behind her. Jake was still inside.
No.
She screamed, pounding on the wood. But it was too late. The next morning, the townspeople found Lisa in the middle of the road, barefoot and trembling. She didn't speak for days. When she finally did, her words were a whisper.
The house. It took them.
She was the first to escape the house that whispers. But she was also the last. Because the next time someone dared enter, the house had already changed. New portraits lined the walls, among them Lisa, Jake, Brian, and Emily. Their faces frozen in silent, eternal screams. And the house whispered again. It was waiting for its next guess.